Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review, and today we're going to be replacing the screen on the Google Pixel 8 Pro. This should kind of work for the Pixel 8, but obviously it's going to be a different screen. So the tools that we're going to need are going to be a razor blade, a plastic pick, and some heat. We'll also need some glue as well as some clamps. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat up the screen, and we're going to be very careful because I'm trying to preserve the screen. But what we want to do is we want to heat it up a decent amount so we can get a razor blade in on the side so we can kind of lift up the screen just a little bit. There is a frame that screen does sit on, so you want to get under that frame, and we want to carefully lift up the screen so then we can get a pick in there. I'm adding a decent amount of heat because I want to make sure I don't damage the screen, so I can refurbish the screen in the future, hopefully. But what I'm going to do is just add a decent amount of heat, and ultimately my goal is to get this razor blade under the screen so I can get a plastic pick in there, and I can cut through the adhesive with that pick rather than with that blade. And ultimately that's what we're going to be doing for the next couple of minutes. I recommend starting on the right side and cutting through the adhesive on the top side, and then going down on the left side, being careful not to damage the OLED panel cable. Of course, if the OLED panel is damaged, technically you don't have to worry too much about that, but I still want to be careful and make sure not to damage that. Lastly, I'm going to cut through the bottom adhesive, and we're going to fold it over to the left side just a little bit. I had the phone on the whole time because I wanted to make sure I didn't damage the OLED, and of course at the end it turned off for some reason. Maybe from all that heat, I don't know. But either way, it looks like this screen is still working, so that's good for me, maybe. But what we're going to do is we're going to fold it over to the left side, and we're going to use a razor blade, hopefully a pick, but a razor blade to lift up this little metal panel like this. It hooks in on the bottom, kind of like it does on the, I believe it's the 6 or the 6 Pro. And what we're going to do is use the plastic pick to loosen up that cable on the top. Now we're going to evaluate the new screen. This one does come with a fingerprint scanner already assembled, but I'm going to remove that one and replace it with the one that this screen has, because generally reprogramming those cables never works. Well, actually not even generally, it never works for me. So what I'm going to do is very carefully take off this really dumb cable. I don't know why it's wrapped around like this. And I'm going to use a pick to lift it up, but I am going to use a little bit of heat. I'm kind of scared because that's where the screen is, so yeah, don't want to bend too much or damage that screen doing this, but we're going to loosen up this right side right here. I call it the right side, but it's technically on the bottom. And then we're going to use some heat only for a few seconds. You can see the actual little gold piece is wrinkling a little bit, but what we're going to do is use the heat and wiggle that fingerprint scanner like we normally do to make sure that we don't damage that fingerprint scanner. This took a couple hits of heat to get off, but I didn't burn the screen, which is good, obviously. And we're going to loosen that up, and it kind of just fell off. So that's pretty cool. Next, we're going to do the same thing on the new screen. Obviously, if you don't have that, you can, wait a few seconds and we'll be on to the next step. But ultimately, what you want to do is the same thing. Unplug that cable, heat it up, wiggle it around. It's good practice to, not break this one, but technically, if it does break, it's not the end of the world, since you did save the old one. But I recommend doing the old one first, then removing the new one if the new screen does have this already on there. Sometimes they don't. But it looks like I got both of them off, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this back into place, lining it up perfectly, which is very difficult to do if there's no previous adhesive, but this one did have previous adhesive, so I'm able to line it up. Plug in that fingerprint scanner cable, then we're going to plug in the screen and power on the phone to make sure that not only does the screen work, but also the fingerprint scanner works. And once I have it programmed, it looks like the fingerprint scanner does work, so that's good. Now we can proceed to power off the phone, unplug the screen, and then we're going to clean up this adhesive around the edge. Pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove all the adhesive and all the glass that's around the edge. It's kind of difficult to do. It's not as easy as the 6 Pro and the 7 Pro, but eventually it'll all come off. I did clean it off camera, but once everything is clean, we're going to plug in the screen again, and we're going to put this little metal panel, slotting it in on the bottom and clipping it in on the top to make sure that it holds down that cable. Then we're going to grab our glue, which is going to be in the description, and we're going to apply it on the bottom side, right side, top side, and then the left side. The order doesn't really matter, just make sure you get it on all 4 sides. And we're going to push in on the bottom side. I like to start with the bottom left, and then push in on the left side, and then push on the right side, and everything kind of just fits in place. Then we're going to grab the clamps, apply 3 on each side, and we're going to let this sit for an hour or so. I generally like to let it sit for 2 hours. Once it's dry, we can loosen up those clamps and remove them. And any of the glue that's leaked out, we're just going to remove it with a finger, nothing really special. It should just come off pretty easily. If you want to, you can put some rubbing alcohol on a napkin, and that might help you remove it a little bit, but you don't have to use anything too crazy to remove this. And as long as the phone's working, you're all set. Hopefully this video helped you out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. And as always, thanks for watching.